everyone is that actually underneath all the stuff that's covered that up. That's the, it's just the distractions from who we are really that stops us from being that.
Welcome back to the Being in Medicine show. I'm so excited. Corey and I are so excited today to have a chance to spend time with the amazing, the one of a kind, unique man we know as Chris Chitty. Chris, how you doing today?
Yeah, hi. I'm doing really well, thanks, Jeff.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's just so excited to be here. Really, it's amazing how we can use this technology to just chat like this. And I love what you guys are doing, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, we love who you are, so we're excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really thrilled to be. I'm thrilled to be here. I mean, you guys' brains are like like little planets, really. To have me here with you two, I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, I know it will be.
Yeah. Thanks,
Chris. Your brain is like a universe. Really, we're 7 time zones away right now, and it's like we're still in the same room. Like I experienced being with you, and you look so fantastic and healthy and full of life today. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeff. I appreciate that. I mean, I did actually, as you know, I think I do prepare for these things as well, anything really, by creating a space intentionally. So hopefully you will feel that, and I do create that space intentionally before we even started talking or recording. So I'm excited to be here with you both.
I'm feeling it right now. And you are the master of preparation, sensei. Tell us about your dojo work, how your dojo work makes a difference in your life.
Yeah, thank you. So I just have this term of dojo work because as a family, we, during COVID, actually, in fact, just before COVID, we all took up karate, and my wife and my daughter went first, and then I kind of went along afterwards, and they'd sort of got through a couple of belts, and I'm like on this little white belt thing, beginning and all of that. And so interesting. So I started that probably at, when would that have been? So we're not currently doing it, but I started that at probably about age 54 or something like that. Anyway, so a little later in life than most people start karate. But the fascinating thing I find about karate is the dojo. And the dojo means the place of the way. And it's kind of like the place where we sort of create ourselves, really. So in karate, you're creating your skills and your mastery and that sort of thing. So I really just take that concept and widen it out and use that, and find that I have been using that for decades, really. But it's a concept of practice, really. And I find that the more we practice in that sacred place, which can be anywhere, by the way, as long as we create it that way, then that shows up in our real life outside of that. And for me, it's about returning to me. It's not about actually creating a whole new persona. It's about returning to me and then creating anything from there, because then it's congruent as well. That's so important to me, It's because I've worked with some people who have spent their lives creating something that isn't congruent with them, and then they're kind of like come to me because they're like lost, and they've lost the important things in life. And so we just do some, which one of my clients called spiritual chiropractic.
Love that.
Anyway, and so it's kind of like push, the spine's out of line, and we're just pushing in these little. I feel like really vulnerable now talking to two doctors about this, but anyway, and I'm not using proper medical language, but basically we're like realigning the spine, so we're realigning themselves with who they are, and then they're so strong they can go and kind of do anything they like. But if it's not from a place of alignment, that's when it tends to fall down. So the dojo work is all of that alignment, really. I've found that's helped me so much in life. I mean, I started, I guess, when I was in my mid-20s. I had post-viral depression and anxiety, agoraphobia, panic attacks, and my doctor at the time actually said, or one of the doctors I was seeing at the time actually said, "You realize you're going to have this for life." And I'm even though I was in that state, I'm like thinking, well, that doesn't sound like a great plan, really. You know, I don't want to run that plan, really. Anyway, I had this amazing sort of counselor who was really more like a coach. I learned so much from him, and that was this is the short answer to your question, by the way, Jess.
Keep going. I love it.
And so he was more like a coach. And what I mean by that was he didn't focus on the past. He kind of almost didn't focus on the current issues. He focused on like the now and the future. And that's what I do with people. You know, it doesn't matter really what they come to me with, the reason they come to me, the presenting issue, if you like. It's about, right, what can we do now and how can we create that future? And obviously the being, you know, who we're being is a massive, massive part of that, because that encompasses, you know, words and imagination and images and the way we talk to ourselves and all of those things. And congruence is just so important, I found, over that last 3 and a bit decades. So I was sort of practicing. So sorry, just to finish that little bit of the story off. So I found the way out. I was on antidepressants for a short while, only low dose, but on antidepressants, and I had this kind of detachment, which is a classic anxiety symptom where kind of things feel like a movie around you. You know, it doesn't feel real. So I had all that, and but I haven't had that for like over 30 years now, and I don't intend to ever have it again, because I just found the way out of that. And really the way out of that, you know, really in a nutshell, is how we think, who we're being, and what our energy is. That's pretty much it. And that's sort of the short version. But and so I've been practicing that. So to come back to the dojo question, I've been practicing that for like decades. And then I've been with clients and things, sort of developing some tools around that and developing some ideas around that. And so practicing there. And then when I had this little annoying diagnosis last year, it really didn't worry me. And that was quite fascinating, because if you told me that I'd have a diagnosis, then I would have thought I would have sort of, I don't know, fallen to pieces or cried or been upset at least. But I really wasn't. I was more upset about the guys giving me the diagnosis, you know, because they didn't look very happy about it. You know, they weren't having a great day because they've got to tell someone, you know, we found this lump kind of thing. And so I'm like feeling empathetic towards them, thinking, well, I actually said to them at once, I said, are you all right? And they're like, well, yeah. And I say, we're not sure you realize how serious this is. I said, no, I realize that. I'm just checking on you guys. Anyway, so that was that. And that was in the, I called it the not great newsroom. You kind of go into this room and there's like the tree on the wall shining through. And it's the not great newsroom. But I'd rather have party poppers and balloons, to be honest, for me. But that's another thing. But so the dojo. So what I realized though in that moment was the power of the dojo work, as I'm calling it, but the practice of all of those decades really of work that I've done that meant it didn't really affect me. And that's the power of dojo work, because then you can still be yourself, whatever happens to you. So it doesn't have to be that; it can be, anything.
Be yourself no matter what.
Yeah.
So
and you don't have to practice. You don't have to remember when you're yourself. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Remember when you're yourself. It's really easy. It's much easier to be yourself than to try and be something different.
We can create anything. All of us are already always creating. So I like how you have an interesting upgrade on top of an intentional way of being, an intentional creation versus a default creation, rather than just an intentional creation. It's an intentional creation that's congruent or aligns with who we really are, getting back to who we are. So you have that term in your group, be you. And I guess basically that's what you mean, is be you.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, that's it. When it sounds like just two simple little words, and a lot of people say be you, and but there's so much depth to that. If we could just get be you, then we really wouldn't have any problems with anything anymore. So the B is the being bit, and the you is, for so many people, rediscovering who they actually are and what they're capable of, and how kind of powerful they are, but also how peaceful they are as well. It doesn't have to be power, bam, bam. It can be just peace as well. It's so peaceful. At our core, we are so peaceful. We're so peaceful at our core. And if you can just tap into that and feel that and know that, and nothing really affects you. And that is you, that's you, Jeff, that's you, Corey, that's me, that's all of us. We can do that. And so that's the you bit, and then the B bit is go and be it, because B is like the practice, really.
Karate dojo as a metaphor is fantastic.
Yeah.
Corey and I both have had ourselves and kids in karate too, just like you. Corey, you and your family being in Taekwondo, what parallels and power-ups do you see?
Yeah, well, I'll clarify. I haven't done it myself, but my two daughters have for sure. The one is a black belt. And so I've watched them do that. And so the power-ups, I was just thinking about this when you were speaking about all that. And I often would sit and watch them participate in it and find the better lack of word, the ritual of how they are speaking to themselves, right? How they create the sayings, the words, integrity and honesty. And then I forget, the phrases that go with those sayings, and they're speaking it in language, and they are reminding themselves of who they really are. And this is a great metaphor for being and be you, because I watch that with my kids, speak it and then feel it and then live into it, which is just brilliant.
Yeah, the live into it is the really important part as well, isn't it? Because kind of you can go through the process, however exciting you make it, you can kind of go through the process, and it's kind of a bit of a process, a bit of a system, and you don't really realize the benefits until something happens or you want to create something, and that's when you really see the work that's been done in the dojo.
Yeah. I just love, that we've talked about it on this podcast before, but, we have our thoughts, and then we use our language, and then, and all of that is coming from who we're being, and, things are created in language. That's what we have available to us. And so in the work that the kids did with karate, and they would speak it, and it would now become that feedback loop of positive language, positive thoughts. It was easier to watch the kids kind of live into that and grow into that when it's all stemming from who they're being.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I can just add a little bit onto that as well, so the language is part of it and a big part of it, but it's also the energy, and it's also the pictures as well. All of those things, and the energy is kind of a bit harder to describe because it's not really describable in that sense, because it's not a thought or a feeling really. It's just an energy, and you kind of know it. and that can be developed as well with dojo practice. And so often the energy practice is just getting still. It's you're not trying to create anything. I mean, I have this thing about this sort of phrase that we can be. If we're trying to be everything, we're kind of nothing, and if we can be nothing, then we can be everything. That's just. We can all do that. It's nothing not like especially about me. We can all do that, and it's just and that's a practice. Practice being nothing, and it's just like amazing what it opens up.
Right.
It's beautiful. So for our listeners, we're talking about being in medicine. Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Create the distinction for us, being or who we are being. What does that mean?
Who we're being. Okay. So I think there's millions probably of descriptions of being, but for me, and I'm thinking possibly for you guys as well, there's two main elements to it. And one is we sort of touched on this a little bit in our preamble, but there's one is being intentional. So we can be intentional about anything. I think it was Zig Ziglar who said something about we can be anything we want, but we can't be everything, but we can be anything, or something like that, which sort of kind of resonates. So we don't want to try and be everything to everyone all the time, or there's going to be conflicts in there, but we can be anything, and probably conflicts with ourselves as well. So that's sort of in what I would call intentional being, and that can be practiced just as much in the dojo as well. As you can be intentionally, the best dad in the world, or the best husband in the world, or the best salesman in the world, or the best surgeon in the world, or the best doctor, or whatever. You can be intentional about that. So that's what I would call intentional being. And then there's just being, which is like this amazing, peaceful place of just knowing who we are. And that's almost the opposite of intentional being. It's kind of like a yin and yang, but they work so well together. So yeah, we can just be nothing. We can be still. We can be quiet. We can just sit in the silence. And that's being for me. So there's no distractions from who we are. And the two together are just, amazing.
I'm going to ask you something. Might be a touchy subject, but it's because I have some knowledge around this.
Mm-hmm.
In that we can create anything, but we would want to be super conscientious about how we create it. My recollection is you were in the process of creating a weight, a body mass of 11 stones, or whatever the number was.
Yeah.
And you did create that, but not really the way you had intended. Can you tell us about that?
That's so interesting. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's so interesting because, so today, I weighed myself this morning, and sorry, this doesn't always translate, and I can't do the maths quickly enough in my head. Basically, a stone is 14 pounds. So we tend to use stones and pounds here in the UK. I know in the US and other places you probably just use pounds, but basically, if anyone wants to do the math, if they really do the math, if they're really that, if they've got that much time on their hands, they can do the math. But basically, a year and a half ago, so just before Christmas, I was 19 stone, 1.5 pounds. And it's interesting because, and this is sort of another metaphor for life, really, because I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that I'd suddenly got that big. And then until I stood on the scales and it started with a 19, I'm like, well, how did that happen? It's like, well, did you miss like 15 and 16, Chris, and 17 and 18? It's like, what happened there? Were you asleep or something? Anyway, but 19 seemed to be like the trigger for me. So I'm like, 19, that's too big. I need to, and that's no judgment on anyone. We're all what we are. But for me, that was like a trigger. 19 was like, So I decided to be 12 stone. And what I mean by that is when we really decide something, this is where the intention thing comes in. All of the energies and all of the universe and God or whatever you believe, but it all sort of combines to help. So it happens when it's kind of like, it sounds a bit woo-woo and a bit law of attraction thing, but there's also, I think there's, when we let ourselves know that this is what's going to happen, then that's what happens. And most of the time we have our own doubts about our goals and what have you. So they don't happen because we can't fight our own doubts. That's really important. We can't fight our own doubts. If we've got our doubts, there's no point in even, setting it, then change your doubts. Don't change your goal, because you never get to that goal. You've got to do that work on the doubt side of it. Anyway, so basically I decided I'm gonna be 12 stone from tomorrow, and this is the line, and my body's just catching up. So that's how I differentiate it. And then I dropped, and I reversed diabetes. I brought it back down to borderline within a couple of months. And then I lost, I can't remember the exact figures, but probably 4 to 5 stone. So what's that? Around about, I guess, about 50 to 70 pounds in sort of a number of months. Quite easily. And I wasn't on a diet. I certainly wasn't on a diet. We have a diet, but I wasn't on a diet. I didn't need a diet because I was being 12 stone. So what that meant was, if I wanted a cream cake or an ice cream, I could have that, just like any 12 stone person could. But what a 12 stone person doesn't do is eat plenty of them, right? Generally. So if you're being 12 stone, that's just, you don't even need to think about that. You just want, well, I'm being 12 stone, so I can have one, but I won't have 20 kind of thing. I mean, I'm exaggerating a bit, but you get the point there. So just be that, and then your body will catch up, or whatever else, as your goal will catch up. But you have to believe it. You have to believe that is possible. So that happened. And then this is where the interesting thing. So then I had some digestive issues and stuff and different things going on, and went to the doctor and got some tests, and they weren't sure at one stage. They thought it might have been a sort of a liver infection, a hepatitis type thing. And then things seemed to improve a bit, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this stuff went on and on until September. And they said, I think we better do a scan. And they said, we found a mass. And this is the not great newsroom. We found this mass on your pancreas. Sorry to give you the bad news kind of thing. And I'm like, well, that's okay. What do we do next? How do we deal with this and all of that? So then that kind of took over, and literally this morning I weighed myself and I was 12 stone, 4 3/4 pounds. So my big message around that is, when you're intentionally creating something, just be careful with the details. I'm being a healthy 12 stone, right? Rather than I'm just being 12 stone, because it's powerful, and it will somehow catch up.
Yeah.
That's kind of would be from my experience. If I was doing that again, I would say be healthy. I'm being a healthy 12 stone, not just being 12 stone. We don't want to leave these little details out.
I love your distinction around making a decision and then effectively becoming the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Corey has some words around the term decide or decision that rings true. What would you add to this, Corey?
Well, I think choice, right? We get to choose who we intentionally want to be, right? And so making a decision around what we want to choose to be helps us to give clarity to, what our future selves are going to look like. And so I don't know if that's where you thought I was going to go with that, Jeff, but I think
so.
I think, the power of choice, because we all get to choose who we want, authentically, we are, from my standpoint, divine energy and moving through life. And we have the power of that. And we get to choose every moment how we want to be authentic. Right. And so, we get that power of the choice, the power of the decision, how we want to show up, who we want to be, and create that into the future is a gift that we all get to have. And so choosing to be 12 stones, that was a decision, and it was a decision to create that for your future. And maybe I would have used the intentional language of healthy, but you got to 12 stones. Right? And that was a choice. That was a choice that you got to be.
It was, and in fact, it was a choice before to be 19, actually, but that was an unconscious choice, right?
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. You created the awareness around who you wanted to be, right? And the dojo work of relearning who you are, really kind of coming back to who you are. And then you got that awareness, and then you chose to be what you wanted to be.
Yes, absolutely. And awareness is one of the biggest, that's the biggest thing, really. It's the awareness. We can't kind of move on without the awareness, I think. Whether that was me overcoming the depression and anxiety and all of that, or losing the weight, you've got to be sort of aware of that in the first place. And then you can just create from there.
I was reading today The Way of Mastery, the book The Way of Mastery. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book, but it's so amazing how the energy of the world, you put it out there and it comes to you, right? Because the section I read today was about awareness, was about dropping the pedal into the calmness, the stillness, right? What you described as the calmness, the nothingness, right? And the thought is the pebble that you drop in, and then it ripples out from there, right? And so the pebble that you dropped in was, well, actually it was 12 stones that you dropped in.
Big pebble.
And that's you got the ripples of that, right? And you now are 12 stones, but the power of that is just amazing to me.
Can I just add something on that actually as well?
Please do.
I pray every day, and I realized I've been sort of praying wrong. I don't think there's any wrong way. I don't think God minds, actually. Personally, I don't think God minds. He's not applying for the job, somebody once said. He doesn't mind if we're praying wrong or right. He will just guide us, right? That's my personal opinion. But anyway, but I realized for me, I was praying wrong. What I was doing, I was saying, please give me this, please give me that, please make this happen, please make this happen. But instead, and this has been quite a recent revelation for me, I've actually I pray with gratitude now. So I just say thank you for that. And it's not about things that haven't happened yet, because there's an incongruence there, and again, we won't believe it because we know it's not true at that moment. So, but we can still, this is for raising your vibration. You can pray, or even with affirmation type things, or even with declarations, Steve, I don't want to tread on Steve's toes, but even with declarations, you can create them to be gratitude for that. So for example, I am the best dad in the world. Thank you, I'm so grateful I'm the best dad in the world. And then it's just sort of like an energy shift, and then it sort of everything flows. It's like flow rather than chasing. So using gratitude with that is so powerful. And I did actually see something recently with the guy, and I forgot his name, Vishen, I think it is, who runs Mind Valley, who was talking about affirmations again, and how you can use a question to help your subconscious, because if we're saying something and it's not true in our subconscious, it's not our belief, then it will never happen. We can't overcome that. And it's not strictly true, because with repetition you can, but if you want to do it more quickly, you can say, why am I the best dad in the world? Now your subconscious is thinking of all the reasons why you are.
Goes to work.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Jeff, I missed that.
Yeah, it goes to work. You put your subconscious to work for you.
Yeah. So just asking the question can be a bit of a supercharge for that as well sometimes.
So when you heard about the diagnosis, my understanding is that you did not identify with the diagnosis. Like, who you are is who you are. We call you Chris Chitty, and you're the person who you are that we call Chris Chitty, whose body has this diagnosis. How does that show up differently compared to identifying with a diagnosis?
It makes me a lot happier, for a start. It means that again, I'm going to go back to energy. My energy is not really touched by it. So I need to just put a disclaimer in here that some of the treatment has been physically quite debilitating for me. Some of the chemotherapy, and I'll spare you the gory details, but basically not pleasant in lots of ways. But that didn't affect my energy or my emotions or my thinking or any of that, really. Because it was just kind of working on that, not on me. That's fine. As far as I'm very happy to work with everything around that. So whether that's prayer, whether it's healing meditations that I do, whether it's medical treatment, I'm certainly not suggesting anyone should go against medical treatment, obviously, have your medical treatment. But you can sort of work with that. I don't know whether I'm answering your question well enough here, Jeff, for you, but so you're saying about disassociating with it. So I think it's so important. See, it's interesting because when I first had the diagnosis and I had to go into hospital for another procedure because it was pressing up against my bile duct. So it was creating this high bilirubin, which apparently was at sort of coma level bilirubin levels in me. All of that, it's just physical stuff. So, but it wasn't really, but I still saw it as a blessing. So the cancer was a blessing to me. And it's going to make me quite emotional because it has been such a blessing to me in so many ways. It's been amazing. And I'm now past that. So it's not a blessing to me anymore. It's actually, I've moved away from that because all the time I see it as a blessing, there's a little bit of me that's going to want to hold on to it. So why would I want to do that? So now it's not a blessing to me. Now that doesn't mean I hate it. It means actually that I love it for everything it's done for me. And now I can send it away with love. I don't need it anymore. The blessing is done. I don't need that anymore. It can go.
Love that.
That's sort of that now.
Tell us. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the interesting things was my wife and my daughter both said to me very recently, they said, "Dad, you're so much more peaceful since you've had this." I'm like, wow. And that's beautiful, And I mean, it does, it does make you reflect on things, and it does make you so grateful for things. I was kind of like that anyway for like decades, but it really, there's obviously something there that needed correcting, course correcting, and possibly the fact that I was not as relaxed as maybe I thought I was, and now I am to this level till the next, mountaintop comes along. But yeah, so it's all good. Sorry, that interrupted.
Oh, that's brilliant. So there's always another mountaintop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about how your intentional ways of being, reinforced by we become what we practice, reinforced by your dojo work, how they showed up in medicine and created miracles around you just by who you were being in the process.
Yeah, thanks. That's a lovely question. Thank you. I mean, I guess really for me it would be, for me, being you is being the same you everywhere. Now, I appreciate that, when you're doing a surgical procedure, you might not be telling many jokes. I appreciate that. But the concept of being me, I don't want to show up here any differently to when we've worked together, Jeff. I don't want to show up any differently to that. I don't want to show up any differently to when we're having like a chatty, fun video call or something. I don't want to show up any differently to if we met and we went out for lunch or whatever it was. I just want to be me all the time. So that's how I showed up when I was in a hospital. So I was in hospital for this other procedure for the bile or for a stent and so on, to overcome the bile situation. And I noticed, this is the other thing again about, it's not all about me. It's like when you're not you can sort of notice what's going on as well. When we're wrapped up in us, you don't notice what's going on.
Right.
But when we're sort of still, you can kind of notice. And you see people who are really, quite strong, particularly I don't know how it is in the States, but in the UK, there's quite a lot of stress in the NHS and in, all areas, but certainly in nursing and so on, and there was generally somebody off sick on every shift. So that meant more beds and so on. And, generally there was people who were tired and all of that. And so I thought, well, how can I help these people? I'm sitting here doing nothing, really, just laying in this bed, trying to eat and things. And that seems a bit of a waste, really. So how can I help? So I started by kind of blessing. There's a few things. So I started by blessing the room. I mean, that sounds, I don't mean that to be grand or anything. It's just like, that's just an energy thing again, that there's this room, there's these patients in the room and there's nurses in the room, and I can just sit there quietly and look around and just bless them, and send them love and send them energy.
Yeah.
And I believe that's really important. And so I can do that. And the other thing that we did was so the little ward I was in at one stage, we have just 4 of us in there. And, people coming in and out and in and out, and like staying there. I'm like, well, I'm obviously meant to be here to help some more people. and because I'm like, I seem to be the long-term resident in here. And anyway, these different people coming in and out. And they're coming in, I'm like, hi, welcome, we're high energy in here, we look out for each other kind of thing, if there's anything. And people are coming in and they're like, oh, okay, who's that in bed to or whatever. Anyway, but then there would be times when there wouldn't necessarily be a nurse and somebody needed a nurse and somebody else could get out of bed, or somebody's buzzer didn't work, so somebody else buzzed the buzzer. So we had this sort of kind of collective going on, which we sort of created. I intentionally created that atmosphere with the others that we're a team here. We can we can all have a more pleasant experience if we work together. So that was one thing. And then the nurses, I just talked to some of the nurses and I say, how you doing? You're doing a great job and all of this. And not just the nurses, whoever it was, the guy coming in cleaning and yeah, I can't really talk about that, but yeah, there was some funny stories around that as well. I'd love to. I wish I could talk about that, but I can't. But anyway, but what I could do was say to them, "Have you got a few minutes?" Because they're saying, "Oh, I'm really stressed. Have you got a few minutes? Can we just talk through a couple of ideas? I think they might help you." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, we can do that." And I remember this one particular nurse who went, we went through some of the ideas and some of the sort of concept of dojo work, but also how we think and how we picture things and how we create our reality and all of that. And they sort of, so they lit up in front of me, which is beautiful to see. I'm not saying that's about me, but it's beautiful to see. I love that. That's why I do what I do. And they went off, and then about 4 hours later, they came back and they said, "Thanks very much. It's been really great. Had a really good shift." And she said, "And the funny thing is, all the other nurses noticed as well, and they said, 'What's happened to you?'" And that's sort of the joy of it. That's like your pebble and ripples again, Corey, in a way.
Yeah.
In a different version. When we're being the possibility of what we can be, then it's not people say, giving me permission to be that. Well, not really. It's just like that you raise that vibration, so it lifts their vibration.
Yeah.
And they can see it, they can feel it, and it can lift everyone to the possibility of who they could be as well.
It's contagious, right? It's a vibrational shift in energy that people feel, and it's contagious. And it really they want to be a part of it. They want to feel it too. Yeah, and it's beautiful, and it helped me. It's not just about them. Selfishly, it helps me as well because I love doing that, and it just lifted me as well. So it was win-win.
Power and team. Yeah. So you are being Chris. You're being grateful. You're being blessing. You're being service. You're being building a team. There's a lot of powerful ways of being that you have been through this process.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just being me, really, Jeff. I'm really not. It's not, wow, look at me. It's like everyone is that actually underneath all the stuff that's covered that up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, it's just the distractions from who we are really that stops us from being that. And I just happen to have done quite a lot of work on all of that, which means I suppose, fear is one of the biggest things that stops people. It's either fear of, people, and this is like the coming out of your comfort zone thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have this little, and this is in sort of my online dojo as well. I have this sort of model, which is sort of similar to other models, but my model is, you have your comfort zone, and this, Jeff, you have comfort zone, your stretch zone, and your impossible zone. And what I mean by impossible is it's only impossible for now. And if we stay in our comfort zone, what actually happens, and I learned this actually from my anxiety and depression days, if we stay in our comfort zone doesn't stay the same, it actually shrinks. So we sort of kind of have to do some work outside that comfort zone. And helping other people in that way in a hospital format, might be uncomfortable for a lot of people. In fairness, it was a bit uncomfortable for me because I thought, well, who do they think I am to start, doing this one? And that's just like a little bad wolf negative thought going on. Mm-hmm. So not reality. And so I just decided to do it anyway, even though it was a bit uncomfortable, because I know that if you do something that's uncomfortable, then your comfort zone will grow. And then what happens is, so you're outside of your comfort zone, you do something a bit uncomfortable, it grows. And then what happens is, the real magic is that then your impossible gets closer. So as your comfort zone grows, the impossible gets closer. And then there's still another, then there's like a further impossible outside of that you haven't even seen before. But that's okay, because now you know the formula.
Right.
So things that were previously seemingly impossible are now just in the uncomfortable zone.
Yeah.
And then in the doing of those, you literally created the impossible.
Yeah. And then when you do them, they're in the comfort zone. They're not even in the stretch zone anymore. They're in the comfort zone now, because now you know you can do them. So now you can build on that.
Right.
So get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, what I want to say about that is that's really important as well. I don't know if I posted about this only yesterday, I think it was. It might have been today. But for some people, the stretch zone bit is actually to be comfortable, because some people have had so much kind of conditioning their whole life to strive and do this and be that, and they've missed out on so much of life. And so their stretch might be actually to be comfortable.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
I feel like that could be applicable to us as clinicians or healthcare providers or doctors or surgeons or whatever. Get comfortable just would be useful. I think a lot of us just show up in life coming from a place of discomfort. How would you serve? What advice or suggestions would you offer to those of us who are in the hands-on practice of medicine?
Be present would be one of my first things. So be really present, because you've got your knowledge and you've got your skills and you've got your experience. But kind of for a number of patients, that doesn't matter. When it matters, of course it matters. They don't want, they don't want no disrespect to lumberjacks. They don't want a lumberjack doing their operation, or they don't want, they want the lumberjack to do their trees, or whatever, they maybe might not want their surgeon to do their trees, right? And so there's no judgment there. But with all of that knowledge, so that's like a given, if you like. It's a given. I'm here, I'm in the hospital, or I'm in the doctor's office, or wherever it is. It's a given that the experience and everything is there. So I would say for both the patient and the practitioner to be present, because that is going to give such a beautiful connection between the two of you that there will be, it's kind of be healing on both sides.
Yeah. Corey spends a lot of time in the groups he leads in our hospital to develop or practice presence. What would you add to that, Corey?
Yeah, I think that is the space in medicine that we have somewhat, I don't want to say ignored, but we've missed the mark a little bit, right? And that is, we've taught knowledge, we've gained skills, we've created more experiences, but we haven't created the space enough to be present and to understand how presence impacts healing and impacts the experience that we have. And so, working with teams to understand just being present to what is being spoken, what's being felt, what people are experiencing, to show up in a way with nothingness, to show up being able to be present with someone in a way in which that is now comfortable for you, right? And so getting comfortable in presence.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think possibly the reason that's happened, it's just an idea, but is that it's potentially difficult for the medical staff because you're seeing all of these people in stressful times of their life, or possibly the end of their life, or whatever. So if you're too connected, then there is the potential to take that on board, and that is actually super stressful in itself. And the way around that really is you can create it to be compartmentalized but still present. So you can kind of metaphorically close the door on it and open the door. A bit like I do, like I say with coaching sessions, and like with this, I will create a space, and then you can come out of that and then just close the door on that space. Mm-hmm. And so you're beautifully present in it, but you're not carrying it.
Right. That's some of the language that we utilize, or I talk about with with the teams as well, as being present, but then not carrying the burden of it with you, right? Mm-hmm. It's being present and acknowledging it in the moment.
Yeah.
And then moving into a different space.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I ask Corey, how you do that? Actually practically do that?
Yeah. I think it's like your dojo work. I think it just takes work. It takes practice. It takes lived experiences of understanding how to do that. And creating the space within a team, creating the space within a hospital or a clinic where there's common language around that, so that people can understand how to be present and then move on from there and be able to communicate effectively that they're moving into a different space or whatever it is. But it is definitely a very personal choice to move into a different space.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I'm one of the things that I learned. I mean, I trained with NLP with Richard Bandler with the group, but sort of in London. And one of the areas that I picked up from that was if you are trying to create a new state of being from another state of being, you need to have like this break in between. And they used to do it by saying, well, what did you have for breakfast? You know, so you're literally coming out of that state and you're thinking, what did you have for breakfast? Oh, I had muesli. Oh, how did it taste? Oh, it tasted really delicious. Oh, I had strawberries in it. Oh, how were they? And what was the texture like on them? And then you're kind of using all your senses for that. And then you've kind of, you've kind of closed the door a bit on that. And then you're ready to open the door on something else, you know, whether that's going home to your family or whatever.
Yeah, that's great.
It can be really useful. But.
Yeah. I'll make sure everyone on the team remembers what they had for breakfast.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Nobody will say muesli.
Yeah.
I better offer a healthy-ish option. But
it's not even a term we use over here.
Oh, okay.
What's your next? Okay, Chris. What's your next mountain?
Big pardon, sorry.
What is your next mountain?
My next mountain. That's a great question. This is so interesting because for me, I'm not looking for mountains. They tend to appear. So my current mountain is healing. And there's so much I'm doing on that with my morning routine, with my meditations, with self-hypnosis, with prayer, with connection, with how I'm showing up, with who I'm being, and also with where my focus is, i.e. not on being that at all. So that's part of the dojo work. So the next mountain, I guess, for me is to build my dojo. You know, we have something like about 25 members at the moment, I think, in the online dojo that I have. So that's something that I will create to be world changing, really. That's from some pebbles and ripples, you know. I'm not sort of saying it like that, but there's so many and it's so interesting because part of the concept of that, there's lessons in there, there's online lessons and stuff, but it works on lots of different levels, just like my coaching does, and it's about it's about the dojo work as opposed to the individual lessons, because then you can apply that to anything, right? So that's sort of so important as well.
If somebody was interested in being an initiate, or the term you would choose to use, in your dojo, where would they find you?
So they would find me. So they can email me through my website, which is, I think, running along the bottom there. If that runs along the bottom while we're broadcasting or whatever. But or they can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, just Chris Chitty, see my face, and that'll probably be me. Just double check. If they've got like one follower or something, it may not be me. Maybe somebody who's cloned me, but why they'd want to do that, I don't know. But anyway, as far as I'm aware, nobody's doing that at the moment. But so look for my face first, and then drop me a message, and then I can connect with you that way, and we can sort of talk about whether that's something that would be useful for you, or just follow me anyway, because you know, kind of all of this stuff is in my posts. It's only really if you want to go faster and deeper that you need to be in the dojo or have coaching. Everything else is all there if you just look back through my posts.
And for those who are just listening, it's triggermyconfidence.com is the website. Triggermyconfidence.com. It'll be in the show notes as well.
Thank you, Corey. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Chris, what's your purpose?
my purpose is to make the world the best it can be for my daughter.
Oh,
I love that. And I do that by lifting other people up, because I don't think that people who are on a higher vibration, those people just create more higher vibration. So my aim is to lift everyone up so the world is better. That sounds like I'm, applying for Miss World or something. I don't mean it like that. But anyway, yeah, that's what drives me.
Yeah.
It's a noble purpose, and I see that in you. So thank you for being that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for being that as well. I just love who you're being, and I have enjoyed this conversation immensely.
Yeah, thank you, Corey, too.
Yeah.
Thank you for creating it. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. So, but thank you, and I appreciate you guys and all of your time and all of this creation, and the work that you're doing is actually exactly the same work that I'm doing in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for that. Beautiful.
Love you, Chris.
Love you guys.
Bye.